What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another very, very special episode of the RXP podcast. The podcast where we usually talk about our love for movies, TV shows, and video games. But today we're actually only talking about our love for movies because I'm your host today, Matt, and I am joined by Yasser.
Hello.
And we just got back from our first time at a film festival. We stayed regionally. Which not the same region that Yasser lives now, but he traveled all the way back to Virginia, and we went to Charlottesville, Virginia for the 38th annual Virginia Film Festival, something like that.
Wow.
It was a great time. It was our first time at the film festival, and we wanted to tell you all about the great movies that we watched along the way. Yasser, how's it feel to be back home? Have you let the films soak in? Have you been thinking about them ever since you got back?
I'm not gonna lie, I actually have been thinking about them. Maybe not like all day, but like I've thought about them multiple times since like on the trip back, since I've been back on the West Coast. Do you feel the same way too? Are there any movies that you feel like we're gonna get into it, but do you feel like you've been thinking about some of the films we watched as well?
Oh, 100%. 100%. It is very special. We've been wanting to go to a film festival for a long time, and to finally carve out a weekends going Friday to Sunday for half of the film festival and just being engrossed in, I'm doing nothing except for watching films and talking about films and enjoying being present in a theater with a bunch of people that are doing the exact same thing. Ever since I've gotten it back, I've just been longing for that experience again. Like it's great. I've gone to the theater twice since I've been back for very different experiences.
I
don't know if you've been watching my letterbox.
Yeah.
I took this upon myself. We have some friends that are big into Twilight. I've never seen Twilight before. And so we went and watched a couple of them in the theater and been watching the rest at home. Very different experience, like crazy different experience from the Virginia Film Festival. But man, I as soon as I got home, I wanted to go to another film festival. I was looking at film festivals coming in 2026 thinking, what would work for our schedule to get out there? I'm addicted already.
Yeah, we got to do it again. I honestly was a little worried because I'm not like one to watch multiple movies on a single day. And we had a day where we watched 3 movies. I had a few concerns about like, how was I going to feel going back to back to back with only like an hour or so in between each film. But honestly, the vibes were so great that I felt like it was kind of seamless. It didn't feel like we were watching 3 movies in a row like you would if you were doing a marathon of some sort.
Yeah.
Do you feel that way too?
Yeah. I definitely felt it at the end of that because we also, one, it wasn't just the movies. We also had like a special performance that we were able to witness. We had, though, probably ending off on more of a somber tone. If I had another heavy film in there, I might have really struggled. But it turns out that day we had something that we've both seen twice in theaters separately.
Yeah,
before
that's
this.
True.
And then maybe one of the most easily digestible films out of the slate. So it was kind of set up perfectly for us.
Yeah, I think so
too. Do you
too.
think you could
You're
have
right.
done 4?
On that day, because of the circumstances you just said, I feel like we probably could have if we did one like early morning.
Yeah. I think 4 might be my max, though. Like, I can't imagine. One, I don't even know how many hours are in the day, like, unless you start adding in short films. But, yeah, 3 felt good. 3 felt good.
3
2
did feel
felt
good.
amazing. And honestly, 1 felt even better. Like, 1 was really nice, just to finish it off.
It was a nice little cap off. I agree. I think 3 is probably like the magic number for a busy day rather than 4, but 4 is like possible.
Yeah, 100%. Definitely will not be my last time at Virginia Film Festival. It is super well run, very organized. Totally. All the theaters are fairly close to each other. Didn't really struggle with parking or finding place. Like I felt supported in a good way. Like it was nice and clean, and I just love that downtown area where a lot of that's at. So we'll definitely be going back, if not next year, the year after, for years to come, because it was just a really, really fun experience.
Yep, I totally agree. Obviously, it's going to be easier for you to go back, but I feel like I want to go back at some point too. Because you're right.
It's such an easy
everything
commute.
about it. Yep, everything about it was great. And the downtown area, like you said, great spot for a film festival. And shout out to that parking garage guy, like he hooked us up
That parking
twice.
garage guy, he knows what's up. We were leaving, and he just let us through. He's like, I don't care. I'm not staying late for you.
He's the
Went back
like
the next
wave you
day,
through guy.
a different lane. He let Maddie and us through. He's just like, come on, lady. He was talking to Maddie. He's like, come on, lady, like get on through here. He knew what's up. It was great. So barely had to pay for parking. Really, really fun. Honestly, I was kind of surprised by just the demographics that were there. I feel like there was a lot of older people there. There's a lot of
Yeah.
people our age. There was even a lot of UVA students, which I think they got a lot
Yeah.
of their tickets for free or on discount. So
Oh.
that makes sense that,
Yeah.
there was a lot of them there. But it was a cool matchup. Like, it was just people that were, like, I saw a bunch of people's letterbox profiles, just them pulling up,
Yeah.
logging in movies. Like, I'm like, these are my people. These are my people.
Right.
So
Yeah.
really, really fun.
Yeah, it's like it goes beyond just a packed theater because you can experience that with any movie when you go
Yeah.
to like an opening premiere weekend. But this was a little different because it felt like everyone that was there was very intentional about being there. And for the most part, we had a few instances where people kind of fumbled with their phones. But otherwise, like everyone
Yeah.
was so entranced into the movies that we were watching. I mean, obviously they were great movies, but everyone was just locked in, and I love that.
So I think we should just get started talking about the movies because we've been talking a
Yeah.
lot about them. It was a great, great festival. Definitely recommend if you're anywhere near the area. There's a lot of nice places to stay, a lot of good food. So you don't really need to be a local. Neither of us are locals. I'm in Virginia, but not right next door to Charlottesville or anything. So
Yeah.
definitely check it out if you're interested or even close by. But we watched 6 movies between Friday and Sunday. We watched 2 on the first night. We watched 3 during the Saturday, all throughout the day. And then we
Mhm.
watched 1 to kind of capstone off our trip before we all headed home. But we're going to start off with Friday. Do you want to take it away with kind of
Yeah.
our opening night?
Yeah. What an opening movie to watch first for us anyways. Like obviously it wasn't opening night for the festival, but for us it felt like
It
opening
felt
night,
like
right?
it. It felt like it for
Yeah.
us.
I mean, we first of all, we didn't even like find this theater right away. We found each other at
Nope.
the roof of the theater. Don't
That's
ask
right.
how that's
Don't
possible.
ask
Just
questions.
just understand that that's how it happened. But we started
But
off with a movie that I was surprisingly captivated by as far as like I didn't realize going in who and what this movie was, but we started with Sentimental Value, which is directed by Joachim Trier. Hopefully, I'm pronouncing that at least close enough. He is a foreign director, and this movie was actually in Norwegian. So there was subtitles. We didn't learn Norwegian beforehand. That would have been cool though.
that would have
And
been
this is the
next level.
second movie of his that I've actually watched. I was telling you and Maddie when we were waiting for the to get in that I had watched Worst Person in the World a couple years back, and I really enjoyed that movie. And I didn't realize that we were starting off with a movie directed by the same director, and that was really exciting for
Mm.
me. And so this movie was more of a family drama. It was very heavy to get started with. I think you'd probably agree with that.
Oh
But it
yeah.
was really beautiful as well. And one of the best things about this movie to me was how it like humanized the house as like another character in the movie. Do you feel that way too?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I even talked about it in my letterbox. I was like, this needs to win supporting actor. The house
The house
itself.
does, yeah. Yeah. But basically, as a quick rundown, I don't want to like go into spoilers necessarily, but um, family drama. There's a dad who's a director, so it's very interesting, like dynamic about like talking about filmmaking within a movie. But he has this estranged relationship with his 2 daughters, and he's a divorced father, and their mother had recently had passed away early on in the film. So the relationship in the movie was really centered around their dynamic and really trying to both recover that relationship and also talk about how, how messy their lives were throughout their upbringing. And it was really a very personal story, and I thought it was beautifully done. It's very heart-wrenching. I think people were pretty emotional about this movie as well. Not quite as emotional as our last movie, but we'll get there. Um, what else am I missing about this movie? What were your initial thoughts, Matt?
It honestly, it was a great movie to start off the film festival because it was locked in. Some of the performances in this were just crazy. Like Stellan Skarsgård
Mhm.
is the dad. I'm gonna mispronounce her name, but Renata Rainsvay, who is the same actress that's in Worst Person in the World that I still need
Yep.
to watch. She was fantastic. She is kind of like the old eldest daughter that kind of has this frayed relationship with Stellan Skarsgård as her dad. Honestly, I just loved how family is family. Everybody has a family, and some of people's relationships with their family is not perfect. There's a lot of
Mhm.
frayed relationships, and sometimes I feel like showing that on screen can be very disingenuous and not feel real. And this felt
Mhm.
real. Like it was the most real frayed relationship, slowly reconciling their relationship with the passing of the mother. And I just loved it. I really, really enjoyed it. It was a highlight, and it was basically the standard for the rest of the film festival to
Yeah.
meet. And a lot of them really had a hard time matching up to it. And that's no fault of their own because honestly, this is one of my favorite films of the year. So
Yeah.
definitely go check this out when it comes to theaters because I think there's a lot to love about it.
I totally agree with everything that you just said. I think the other thing that I would also bring up is I like how they didn't go too far into like the backstory early on in the movie. They kind of let you digest that as they started interacting with each other. And then slowly and very carefully, they would trickle in some of these flashbacks of
Yeah,
some of their worst times when they were growing up. And I thought that was really well done. And you're right. There were some incredible performances, and it really did set that benchmark early on. You're like,
oh yeah,
okay, these are going to be amazing movies. We're not going to have any bad movies, at least if they're all measuring up to this. Which, like you said, it was difficult, but like we've said afterwards as well, like we were surprised by how good every single movie we watched was. So
yeah.
this was just the first example of that. All right, so we'll jump to the next movie.
Number two, yeah, number two
Yeah,
that night. This was the one we knew the least about. It's The
yeah,
Plague. It is done by director Charlie Pollinger. It's his directorial debut. So if you're like, I've never heard of that guy, neither did we. It's not a big
yeah.
deal. We didn't even have a trailer coming into this.
Not even a
We had a
trailer.
name, we had vibes, we maybe had a synopsis. Did you hear something about this? Like, I felt like you were the one that was like, I'd be down for The Plague when we were picking
I
tickets.
I had very limited information as well. I just knew based on the reviews. I took some time to review some of the reviews on Letterboxd, and I really liked what I was hearing out of the reviews. But you're right, there was no trailer. Never heard of this director. I was confused how it was going to become a horror movie. But that was
Yeah.
kind of the cool, interesting mystery behind it. Is like, how does this turn into a horror movie? What is this about? I just wanted to learn more.
Yeah. Um, Honestly, you're not going to know many people from the movie, but it follows a
Mhm.
kid who basically goes to a water polo camp. All right, is everyone
Yep.
sticking with me? And they're dealing with the horrors of bullying and acne and all the things in between. Everything that's socially awkward about a middle school kid, they
Yep.
perfectly set in stone in this movie. The only actor that we know anything about is Joel Edgerton, which is he's in a movie we'll talk about later, but he's the coach. Outside of that, a bunch of no-name kids just acting their hearts out. And honestly,
Mhm.
this was my least anticipated of the entire film festival, but I still really enjoyed it. I did not expect it to be as horror focused. I thought that how could you make this a horror? And somehow with the camera work, which I thought was really clever, the sound design, everything that they chose felt very intentional to make it feel like horror. Even though there wasn't a lot of gross things, there wasn't like any violence. There was some violence, but not maybe what you would expect. Actually, definitely not what you
Yeah.
would expect. But I really was impressed. Like, this is not a slasher
Yeah.
film, but I felt like I was watching a slasher film. I was waiting for the other shoe to drop, and I was just
Mhm.
impressed by all that. So, what'd you think about The Plague?
Yeah, I'll definitely start by echoing some of the things that you mentioned about the sound design, which was truly incredible. I thought it helped make a lot of those eerie, dark scenes that we had in the middle of the night, as well as some of the camera work that you mentioned as well. I really like how they set up some of the lighting with some of those eerie scenes to make it look like even a locker room can be a
Yeah,
very creepy place, which is incredible. And then one of the things that we had talked about right after was those like dreamlike sequences where they have these like underwater dancing scenes
yeah,
that look like that they were like floating in space in a lot of ways because it's happening underwater, and they like the way that they situated the camera made it look like that they were dancing above water even though they weren't. They were underwater. Very cool stuff, very unique that I hadn't seen in any type of movie before, and it makes me excited to see like what other projects he's going to be working on later on. You mentioned, I don't know if I'm kind of putting you on the spot here, but you mentioned he had another movie coming out with a very prominent actor.
yeah. That's right. So it sounds like, and this is just on Letterboxd, so I don't know how official this is. I didn't look to kind of like fact check it anywhere. But he's
Yeah.
set to direct The Mask of Red Death, which I feel like is a Edgar Allan Poe short story.
Right,
But
right.
the only actor that is tied to this is Mikey Madison from Anora fame. So that sounds great. Like,
It
honestly,
does.
I think she was fantastic. Maybe one of my favorite performances of last year. And with this, like,
Yeah.
this showed a ton of promise. If you're able to make me feel nervous just watching people bullying each other, I'm impressed. I'm impressed to
Mhm.
see what you could do with something else, like a more standard setting, where you're not having to do that much heavy lifting. I'm right there for you. This is not a very pleasant watch in the sense of it's not fun to watch someone get
Yes.
bullied for an hour and a half, but
Right.
I will say it's worth the watch if you're interested. And it's one of those things where he's kind of cemented. I want to see what he does next. That
Yeah.
is, I'll be carefully keeping an eye on him.
Yeah, I think it was pretty clear after we watched this movie. Like our initial reaction was like, first of all, what the fuck?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. Respectfully, what happened?
Respectfully, but like what did we just watch?
Yeah,
But also like after you take some time to like digest it, you realize how well made it was because like at least for me, I almost forgot that I was watching a movie that was like so like when you explain it, it sounds like such a basic, like standard movie that
yeah,
wouldn't be very engrossing at all. But I realized how engrossed I was the entire time. And honestly, the one other thing that we hadn't mentioned yet is I was very impressed by all the children actors. Like they all
yeah,
acted their hearts out. I thought they did amazing. It reminded me of like a Stranger Things ensemble where we have all these young actors that all seem to know what they're doing, which I think again goes back to a great director gets that out of child actors better than a director that may not have as much experience working with children. So I am curious, like if he had some experience that helped him with that, or if maybe he had some other people on the cast that assisted with it. But it was incredible. I thought it was really well done.
yeah. Fantastic. I feel like it's going to be one of those movies where if we were to see this another time down the road, maybe 20, 30 years, I wonder how many of these child actors will go on to do different things. Like,
I'm
a lot
curious
of them
too.
are bringing it all, and a lot of them were very like physical in their acting, where
Yep.
they are personifying what they're trying to do so much more than just what is being said on the script. So,
Hmm.
very, very excited. But that wrapped up day one. So that was Friday in the
That
books.
was day one.
Honestly, it was
Yeah.
tough overall. different feelings. One kind of sentimental, no pun intended, and another kind of just shocking, horror laden. And then we started day
Yep.
2 and Saturday.
Yeah. And day 2 had the heavy hitters, right? Like these were
It
the
did.
ones that were like the headlines for at least the movies that we were anticipating to be the biggest of the
Yeah.
festival for us. And we started off the day with Frankenstein, which was very exciting and perfect for the Halloween vibes, right? This was right
So
before
good.
Halloween, a week beforehand. And it was very exciting to see this story retold in a very different way, at least very differently than what I've experienced so far. This adaptation of Frankenstein was directed by Guillermo del Toro. We had a running joke about Guil- about del Toro. We're gonna leave that for another pod. But
No, just go ahead and say it. Just say it. You hate him. You hate him and all of his works. We get
I
it. We
don't
get
hate
it.
del Toro. Del Toro, if you're listening, you're a great filmmaker. But I will say, like, I will admit that I don't think that him and I see eye to eye as far as like some of the things he chooses for like direction and color palette. Like he's got a very specific style, right? Del Toro.
Hmm.
That doesn't always jive well, but like we talked about during the festival, you and I both loved Pinocchio. And so
Love it.
honestly, Del Toro is always just a wild card for me. I never know what to expect. And that's kind of what was the exciting part for me about this. Like, is this gonna be um like where is it gonna land for me in the like echelon of the movies that we're watching? And honestly, I thought the first half of this movie was really exciting. There was a lot of interesting things that made it different than your typical Frankenstein.
Hmm.
And then we realized that there is like a second half of this movie, right? That kind of goes
Yep.
into like more of the depth of the Frankenstein monster himself, which again is very different. Like we had a movie like this where you have an adaptation of Frankenstein where he is truly the central character. Have
Not
you
that I
experienced that
know
at least?
of.
Not
I
that I
don't know.
know
I
of
feel like it's
either.
usually Dr. Frankenstein that it
Right.
pins onto.
Exactly. Which I thought was really cool. The fact that we were able to kind of transition to that being the central focus of the movie.
Hmm.
Honestly, I don't feel like I need to explain too much about the Frankenstein like plot overall. I think we kind of expected or knew what to expect from that circumstance. But I thought the most interesting part about it was that piece where you focus on the Frankenstein as a monster as your central character and also kind of the humanization of that character
Yeah.
where we start to see movies more and more now. And honestly, the funny part is I think Twilight kind of fits in this category too,
Oh
where
no.
you're starting to, well, we're starting to like humanize monsters where they're not just purely evil anymore. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like there's intention behind their backstory. It's not just be terrified of this monster and that's it. Like there's like true intention behind building these characters and what
Hmm.
more you can get out of them in these stories. And that to me was what I thought was the most fascinating. What did you think of the movie?
Um, very much agree with what you're talking about, but the style, color palette, always a huge fan of everything that I've seen from a style standpoint. My biggest gripe is kind of what you're talking about of it was a little bit longer. It was 2.5 hours, and I felt that two and
Yes.
a half hours in comparison to some of the other ones, even that were that long. And I think that's just has to do with the pacing, and maybe this is a choice of his to really deep dive into it because I do think he hit it hard of the humanization of the monster. That he's really not the monster; he's the creature. He is this created being that has a voice. He has feelings. There was a big to do about the guy who plays him. What's his name? I forgot what his name is. Um,
Oh, I don't want to mess it up. Jacob Elordi?
Yes, Jacob Elordi. All I could think of was Adrian Brody because it basically rhymes with that. And I knew that was wrong. There was a big to do about Jacob Elordi being the creature, and I didn't really understand because I was like, why does it matter? I guess because he's tall, and that's why it's a big deal. But I can see now why it was such a big deal because he had
Yeah.
more of a voice, he had more of a storyline, and honestly, I thought that was pretty refreshing. I definitely think that this is the definitive vision of Frankenstein. I can't imagine something that's going to be more detailed than this. And so I'm happy from that standpoint. This is one that I'm interested to watch. I'm interested to see as it's going to be released on Netflix within the next 7 days. And I'm interested to kind of see what the scuttlebutt's about. Like, are people going to like this? Are people not?
Yeah.
And honestly, it was a fun time. It was very easily digestible, even though it's just a lot of it. This is the one where you were kind of talking about. There was somebody on their phone, and I literally read the time from their phone, and I was like, oh, we still have like an hour to go. And at that point, they showed like a title card for, basically the third act, and I was like, oh no, we still have a long ways
That was a chunky
to go.
act. Yeah.
But this might have been the one that kind of stayed the longest on the screen.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that was my biggest gripe as well, because I didn't really like get into much of the gripes that I had, but I think that's the main one right there. Is I felt like it was a little overcooked. I think that's the term that I used when we talked about it right after.
Yeah.
But I think I still stick with that word in the sense that some of the so for full disclosure, if you haven't seen it yet, there are segments of this movie split up by acts. And was it like 3 or 4 acts?
I think it was
Do you remember?
3 acts.
Okay, I think you're right as well. And I felt like that to me made it difficult as far as pacing is concerned, because you are kind of flipping who you're focusing on throughout because of those acts. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Weapons in that sense too.
Really?
Where you do
Okay.
kind of jump around a little bit. And
You do.
and I do find it a little disorienting sometimes when movies do that. Not saying it can't be a good thing, because I have seen it done well in the past, but it does make it a little bit more disorienting for me. And I do feel like you do feel the runtime a little bit longer if that happens. So that to me was the biggest thing that I didn't like as much in comparison to some of the other movies that we had. Was, like you said, you really do feel that runtime in comparison.
I will say, from watching the trailer of Frankenstein, I was very discouraged by the CGI. I thought the CGI looked pretty bad on the
I
trailer.
remember you mentioning that.
And then when we watched it, I was like, huh, not bad. Like, I thought it was good.
Yeah.
Like, yes,
good
there
too.
will be CGI animals. Yes, they aren't real. Yes, I had no problem with them. Like, move on. It's fine. This is 2025. So honestly, everything from a visual standpoint, no issues. It's
I agree with that.
mainly just we know whatever you in your mind. I don't care if you've read the book or watched any of the movies or just like seen something like on Scooby-Doo. Like, you know what Frankenstein is. You know what themes they're going to try to make evident in this movie. You already know everything about this film is my biggest thing. So definitely go see it though. This is coming to Netflix. Basically everybody will have access to this pretty soon. So it is definitely worth a watch. I've actually recommended it to a couple people at work, because some of them, it would be really tough to get them to watch Sentimental Value and The Plague, but to say, hey, Guillermo del Toro is making a new movie. It's coming to Netflix. All of them have gone, oh, really? Okay, yeah, I'll check that out. Like, so I think this is going to do gangbusters in the next couple weeks.
Yeah, I think this has broad appeal for sure.
All right. Middle of the day. This was our marquee event.
Yes,
and
it was.
Usually going to a film festival, it is all about what's the new movie. What's the movie that's going to release later this year? What's the movie? The Plague actually doesn't even have a wide theatrical release until 2026. Like, doesn't until January. So, what are some of these far off movies that you can kind of keep an eye on? But there are certain ones that get offered that is replaying older movies, very old movies from the 70s, 80s. There were some, references to those. There were some showtimes for those. We did not partake, but we did partake in a 2025 movie that we have seen and we've loved already 2 times in the theater, called Sinners. We have already talked about this movie.
You may have heard of it.
In great detail on this pod. So we're not going to really belabor the point. But this is Ryan Coogler flick. It stars Michael B. Jordan. It stars Miles Keaton. It is fantastic. The really fun part about this is that we watched the movie. They also presented an award for music in cinema, I think. Something
I think
like
you're
that,
right.
to Miles Caton,
Yeah.
who plays Preacher Boy. And then they had a Q&A at the end. Unfortunately, we did not get to ask any questions. It was a Q&A by a professional
We were
critic, which
ready
is,
though to ask questions.
we were ready. We were ready. I wasn't. Yasser was ready. He had like some IMAX questions. I was like, whoa, check your privilege, Yasser. IMAX, I would never. He was ready for that, but getting to experience a Q&A. But then he also was able to play a music number. This was just a special experience. This, in my mind, 2025 is going to be defined by a few different films. I don't know what those few films are. I do know one of those films has to be Sinners. At the end of the year, this is probably going to be in my top 3 favorite movies of the year. It is a special film. This is something that should not work for me because I am not a big horror person. And that's what it is. Like, this is light horror. It's not Sinister or The Conjuring or anything like that, but it does have a lot of horror elements. This is a vampire film set in the Deep South. It is fantastic. There's nothing else for us to talk about, but it was just very, very special to experience it with people. Majority, I would say 75, 90% of the crowd have already seen it before, and just reliving it with true fans of the film was very, very special.
Yep. It was funny. I think before the movie played, he asked how many people have seen it multiple times, like at least twice already, and it was like half the theater already
Yeah,
that had their hand
it's
raised. It was
crazy.
insane. But I think that goes to how easy to digest this movie is for like from a broad scale. And I mean, we see it from the numbers that the movie pulled in too. But
Yeah,
there's depth where you want it, but also it's super enjoyable even without that depth. Like you can just
yeah,
enjoy going to a fun movie and you would enjoy this movie as well. But if you want to dig into it and like nerd out, I think there's so much to talk about in this movie as well. And I think that's what makes it a great choice for a film festival where people can nerd out about a movie like Sinners, sorry. Uh where it makes sense. It just came out earlier this year, but I was ecstatic to watch it a third time.
yeah, yeah. My favorite rewatch up to this point. I have not seen this in IMAX, so this was my best viewing pleasure. Really good sound design, just in general. Even in my, I wouldn't say crappy, even in my independent theater that I go to, that I watched it initially, man, it was banging. And hearing it on like actual speakers on a better screen, I was like, man, this movie's banging. This is something
And
that if you have HBO, watch it on your home setup. I'm sure it's banging. Like it is. This is a
mhm.
fantastic film, a film of the ages.
And then getting to see him and hear him perform live was even better. Like that I've seen it in IMAX and I think that's like probably the top of the line as far as like what you can see from a technology standpoint, but hearing it in person, I thought was even next level beyond that.
Yeah,
It was really cool, and it seemed like he was a really good performer live too. Like there are some performers where you think, "Oh, okay, like the recording and the studio does a lot of the work." Definitely not the case for
yeah,
Miles. I think it's pretty obvious.
yeah. He was fantastic. Very humble. Just seemed like a really good guy. This is his first acting performance of all time, which
Yeah,
is
which is
crazy.
insane.
So
Yeah.
I really hope he's not just one of those like one and done. We don't see him anymore because I just love seeing him on screen from
Mhm.
acting and performing. Like performing, he talks about like how he feels so natural on stage performing.
Mhm.
But even acting, something that he doesn't do a lot of, he was really great. So very excited. I'm assuming one of us will be talking about this at the end of the year.
And
Maybe
it,
not. Maybe we'll both surprise each other, but this
and
is
at the
still
very
one of my favorite
least,
movies of the year.
yeah, and we know we're going to be talking about it again because it'll be all over awards season, right?
Yeah, 100%. Which I'm
Yeah.
so shocked at. Like at the beginning of the year when this came out, I was
Mhm.
like, we've seen this before. We've seen Dune Part 2 come out early and everybody's like, "Oh, it's going to sweep, it's going to sweep." And
Yeah,
then you
yeah.
realize that there's a very niche that we are involved in, like almost nerd culture that watches movies too.
Yeah.
And this has gone past that. And it's still in people's lists for like people are expecting this to be on Best Picture runs, which is fantastic. I'm really excited for him.
Yeah, and it goes to show like how well made this was, because you wouldn't expect a vampire movie to be on Best Picture, you know?
No,
It's
yeah,
kind of
absolutely
insane.
not. Yeah,
But also, I think it is very interesting to see like this shift where, I mean, you mentioned a pod recently to me called The Big Picture, and they made a really great point on one of the pod episodes where like we're seeing the explosion of like the horror genre in general right now, where we see like more interesting and unique things coming out of the horror genre that also sell really well, which is really
yeah,
interesting. Like those are, with the exception of like superhero movies that still do incredibly well. This is the genre that people like to go to the movies for, you know. And I personally
hmm
am one of those as well. I love watching a good horror movie in a packed theater, where you just hear
yeah.
like the stupid reactions out of a packed theater, like don't go do that, you know. Um, but yeah, I loved watching this in three packed theaters in a row, and I really do hope that it gets all the awards that it deserves. All right, so shifting over to our next movie. And again, this was our third movie of the day. So we didn't
Yeah.
know what to expect. What we did know is it was a little bit shorter than the first two movies, which was a godsend because both both Frankenstein and Sinners are long movies. Whether you love them or you hate them, like they're long movies, right? But this one was a little bit shorter. It's called Train Dreams. Train Dreams. Try not to mess that up. But directed by Clint Bentley. And this movie has an incredible cast. I'll just start there. It has a cast that, like an ensemble that I think you're just going to recognize multiple faces throughout the movie. That's the boat that I was in. I don't know a lot of these actors by name, between Joel Edgerton that we already talked about, Felicity Jones. There's a long list, and I don't know like who to call out and who to leave off, so I'm not even gonna try. But constantly throughout the movie, they like, oh, I know that person. Oh, I know that
Yeah,
person.
yeah.
And that surprised me. I don't think I've watched another Clint Bentley movie unless I'm misremembering. Um, but this to me might be the most surprising movie of the show. Like I know we talked about how surprising The Plague was, and that is absolutely true. But this one kind of just caught me off guard as far as how good it was. I knew it was going to be good because a lot of people had been talking about Train Dreams and how it's done in other film festivals throughout the year. I didn't see this one coming is all. Um, Basically you're following the life of a logger in the what is it, like the late 20th century or mid 20th. I don't know exactly the time frame. Um, I think early 1900s, right?
Yeah, I think it was like 1917 or something like that.
Yeah, that sounds about right. And then it's not only following his life, but also his life in relation to the family that he consistently leaves behind to go make money for the money they need for their cabin and everything else in their lives. And so I don't even know how to explain this movie. Like it's gut wrenching because it does
hmm
deal with loss and heartbreak. I'm not going to say more than that. Um, but also it's really it does a really great job of highlighting someone at their like lowest stage in life, like rock bottom.
hmm Yeah.
And really letting them kind of like sit in there with their silence and with their loneliness and not have to say too much. And some of the like quietest scenes were still some of the more prominent and like scenes that I remember afterwards because of the fact that they allowed the scene to be as quiet as they were. This movie does not have a lot of dialogue. And that was also surprising. Like I wasn't expecting it to be like that either. Um, but the impact I thought was very clear. And it was another one of those movies where like you leave it and you don't know how to feel because it brings out like strong emotions. At least that's how I felt.
Yeah.
How did you feel coming
hmm
into this? How would you explain this movie? Because I feel like I'm struggling, to be honest.
Yeah. It's kind of tough, because we don't want to take anything away from actually watching it.
Yeah.
It will be in a limited capacity in theaters in the next week. It'll be on Netflix at the end of November, so a lot of people will be able to see this. To me, the first thing that first sets your mind is it's beautiful. The cinematography is great. Like, he is a logger. There's a lot of very vertical shots, looking up trees, looking down trees. Really fun from a captivating like standpoint. It's just beautiful. But the thing that's really captivating about the whole film is it follows this guy. He is, poor. This is leading into the First World War, where he's being a logger because they're trying to make railroad tracks for the trains to help with the ongoing war. The Great Depression happens. All the while he meets someone, has a kid, is constantly away from them. So dealing with his duty as a father, as a husband, while also wanting to be present for his daughter. And basically, like, him having to live with a life of consequence. Like, he has made mistakes. He has made things that have haunted him all his life, and kind of following him on his life of not just haunting him for the next month, but haunting him for years and his entire lifetime of things that he wishes he could do differently, which anyone can think of. You could think of anything, any person in a real life. There are things that we wish we could take back. And so I think it does a good job of tackling that without actually talking about it. It is very much a visual first, not as much talking later, which is good. Because this is one where I am very excited to watch this at home, because I struggled with some of the dialects, because this was like very like rural Montana accent. I really struggled with hearing it in the theater. So I'm excited to kind of hear this where I can like just blast it to understand. But really, really effective. Definitely don't sleep on this. This is a definite highlight for me. There's three, Sinners is one thing, but there are three other movies besides Sinners that I gave a heart to, and this was one of them. And I try not to give my heart out, that's just in general. But I try not to give a heart out on Letterboxd until it's something where it's like, this could be part of my personality. These are just things that really resonate to me about like movie watching in general. And this is something that I found very effective. So I'm very looking forward to rewatching it, but definitely don't sleep on it. It's really quite good.
Yep. I think I am in agreement with you that I definitely want to rewatch this movie. And it's not necessarily because of the dialect, although I do agree with you on that part, but more so, I just feel like I want to live in this world longer for whatever reason. Yeah. Like we said, this was a shorter movie. It's a 100-minute runtime. But I feel like I could have watched more, even though we were obviously very late in the day, third movie in the day. In more ideal circumstances, I would have wanted to watch another half hour of this movie. That's how well acted it was. That's how well lived in it felt. And honestly, you bring up a good point about how haunting it felt, because I wasn't prepared for that. Like, it was a very haunting film. And there's just as much horror in this, in my mind, as some of those elements that we talked about in The Plague, where you really do live in this person's psyche for 100 minutes. And at some points, it is very haunting. And I just thought that was incredible. And I want to watch it again just to experience it again. And the most exciting part about this is I don't think I would have watched this otherwise. Like, if you gave me like the plot summary and just like, oh, this is a Netflix movie, like, there's no way I'm watching this. But now I want to watch this. And that's the biggest thing that I got out of this film festival is maybe I need to like broaden my scope a little bit, or maybe I just need to give more movies a chance. But it was cool to see a lot of movies that I wouldn't have watched at premiere or at their initial release otherwise. And it gave me a good idea of like which movies I should look out for. And that to me was really exciting. I really am glad that I got to watch this movie, and I can't wait to watch it again, like you said.
Yeah. Check out your independent theater the next week. if there's a showing for it, just go watch it, because I think watching it in a theater is going to be, you won't regret it. You won't regret it.
Mm.
So that was Saturday though, which
That was
leaves one
Saturday.
movie for Sunday.
Yeah.
We only had one time slot that worked for us, which was right in the middle of the day, and we watched Hamnet, which Hamnet
Mhm.
is a movie by Chloe Zhao, um, most well known for her time in the MCU. That's kind of a joke. Um, she did Eternals, which a lot of people hated. I thought was like fine. Honestly, I kind of want to rewatch it because there were parts of that I really enjoyed. Like some of
Yeah.
the power animations were really fun.
I
Overall,
still
though,
haven't
that
watched
movie
that, believe it or not.
underperformed. Yeah,
Yeah.
like, and that's
That's all I've
fine.
heard.
Yeah. Actually, probably more notably to like a cinephile side of things, she directed Nomadland, which was kind of all
Oh,
over
I
the
have seen
Oscars.
that. Yes.
Um, but Hamnet follows William Shakespeare in his life as he is writing basically what happened in his personal life that maybe led to the writing of Hamlet, which is very famous, obviously. I don't really, still to this day, I don't know if I know exactly what happens in Hamlet. I just know it's a very famous play. But it follows him and his wife and their three kids, and it is just whoa. This movie, it's Paul Mescal's Shakespeare. It's Jessie Buckley as Agnes, who is his wife. The kids are played by actors that I do not know, but they are fantastic. Like, talk about
Incredible.
child actors that just
Yeah,
like brought it.
totally.
This is a really tough film to watch because it is sad, as you might expect. Hamlet,
Yeah.
the only thing I knew about it is that it's a tragedy. And so what had to happen to his life to lead to a tragedy? And this is the film that kind of talks about it. And it is
Mhm.
great. Like, this is a movie, when I'm talking about movies that are going to fight against sinners at the end of the year, this is the movie that I'm thinking about. Um, I think it balances not just focusing on the loss, but focusing on the love that leads to the loss is something that I find intoxicating. Like, I just enjoy that they took their time for us to understand what he had. So then when it's taken away, it means more. And so, to
Mhm.
me, this is this is a great one. I can't, you know, implore you enough, audience. Go see this. It comes out in the middle of December. So right around holiday time. It is not a easy watch, but it is a great watch. Yasser, what'd you think about it?
I'm with you, man. I thought this was definitely one of the best movies I'd seen this year. Just by the performances alone. The performances knocked this completely out of the park for a story that, like, to be completely honest with you, like, I don't know too much about Hamlet, like you said going in. So I didn't really have too much invested in the story, and I still felt like it was incredibly well done. This is a fictionalized story about what could have led into Hamlet because a lot of people don't really
Mm-hmm.
know very much about William Shakespeare.
Yeah.
And so that's also another interesting element of just trying to understand more about the writer himself and what led to some of these incredibly popular and um, with incredible legs plays that he's made throughout his life. And it's really interesting to see that portrayed as well done or as well made as it was in this movie. And it almost made me, or not almost, it did make me want to experience Hamlet again, just
Yeah.
to kind of like connect those dots a little bit. Because I will say, towards the end, when they kind of start to begin to connect those dots, it was a little difficult for me because I didn't have that background, and I want to get that background and watch it again and see if it changes the way that I feel about that final act. But overall, everything that you said, I'm in total agreement with. The actors completely knocked it out of the park. Not only the children, but also the leads were fantastic. Some of the most engrossing scenes where the tragedy truly occurs, it feels like a
Mm-hmm.
tragedy. Like,
Yeah.
everyone around us was like bawling their eyes out during
Yeah.
those scenes. And it wasn't surprising because it was truly how powerful those scenes were, both from how well shot it was and how well acted they were. So
Mhm.
incredible. I can't wait to watch it again as well. I'm really curious to see like how it does on its wide releases, because this, in
Mhm.
comparison to like a Frankenstein, I'm not sure if it's for everybody because not everyone's like
Yeah.
a huge lit nerd. But
Yeah.
again, like this is another great example of like I don't think I would have watched this movie, but having watched it in this setting made it perfect because I had to like, or I didn't have to, but like it helped encourage me to watch this movie and I loved it. And I definitely do recommend it to people, even if you don't have that very much background with Shakespeare as well. I think it makes it even better. So
Yeah.
definitely feel the same way. It was incredible watching this as the final movie. It was a nice little capstone, and I don't know if I'm forgetting if you mentioned this or not. That introductor when we like right before the movie, who's like being super like flatlined or deadpanned. He's like, everyone's
Yeah.
gonna cry during this movie, just so you know.
Yeah.
And just don't be on your phone because this is like very serious. And he was like totally right. Like everyone was bawling their eyes out by the end of that film.
Yeah. Yeah. So good. Um, I feel like we're going to talk about it a little bit more because it brings us to our time where we have to give some superlatives for the show. I feel like we should wait for MVP to the end.
Okay, yeah.
You
I like
think?
that too. Yeah.
So we're going to give a few different superlatives. We're both going to pick our choice out of the 6 of these. So the first superlative, most likely to rewatch, or maybe like most interest to rewatch.
Okay. I think I'm gonna rewatch multiple movies. I'm gonna just like say that right off the
100%.
bat.
I might rewatch all of these.
It's very possible. I think if someone were to ask me that question about these 6 movies that we watched, I think the first one that I'd want to rewatch, or the first one that comes to mind, is Sentimental Value.
Yeah.
There were so many incredible shots and performances in this movie that I feel like I would just have fun watching this movie again, even though, like we said, it's not a
Hmm.
fun movie. Like the
Yeah.
the tones are very sad in general. Um, and it's a family drama through and through. Like these guys are not your perfect family by any stretch of the imagination. But I enjoyed watching this movie because of how well it was produced, and I can't wait to watch it again.
Yeah. Completely agree. I think that's a great pick. Mine is Train Dreams. I think
Okay.
being at the end of 3 movies, I do feel like I almost preferred if Train Dreams happened at first. Like I would love to come in with a fresh mind to watch it because
Yeah.
it was definitely affecting. But I am curious. I think Train Dreams might be the one that I might give more stars to, a higher rating
Mm.
the second time I rewatch it because I might appreciate it a little bit more. Fantastic, definitely in my top half of the ones that we watched. All 6 of these are great. Really enjoyed
Yeah.
all of them, but I think Train Dreams for me was probably, even taking out Sinners, just like pretending it's just 5 without Sinners. I think Train
Yeah.
Dreams is probably number 3 on my list. And that's not to say it was bad. Like it was
No, no, yeah.
great. It was a great movie. I am expecting my opinion of it to only get higher from this one out. So I'm most excited for that because I just know it's there. I know it's there. I just may need a little bit more time to dive in.
And I'm glad that you mentioned that about Sinners, by the way, because when I'm thinking through these movies, I'm not like Sinners is like its own thing, and
Right.
I'm not saying that it's like in a different tier than these movies. It's not. It's more so just I'd seen this movie a couple times already, and so really when I'm thinking through this film festival and what I thought of the movies, I kind of leave Sinners aside. So just as
Yeah.
a shout or a call out as we kind of go through these awards that we're personally making.
Yeah. Yeah, completely agree. Next, superlative. I forgot the word for a
Yes.
second. Next superlative, best performance out of any of these movies. I can go first if you
Yeah.
want. If you want
Okay,
to
go
think
for
about
it.
it.
Yeah, yeah.
My best performance was Jessie Buckley in Hamnet. She plays Agnes. She starts off as just kind of a weird wild child that is hawking in, like, she's falconing in the woods. Very like flower child energy.
Yeah.
Turns into someone who turns into a lover, and that lover turns into a mom, and wife, and she is the person that the loss affects just as much as William Shakespeare, but I think her view of the loss and kind of her facial expressions working through that loss is something that I still think about. Like, there is a final shot where she is amongst a crowd of people, and all the crowd of people look normal. They look sad, and her facial expressions are something where you could have no one in the background. Like, she is able to exude so much more emotion than people around her. And that's just the ending. That is just the ending of what I think is a very great finale that worked for me. But even beyond that, like, she gives birth in this movie, and that's not a spoiler to say, like, she has kids, and it goes through that process of the ability to have children. And I think it's a very visceral way that they show that, and it's a way that it's like, I think I just actually witnessed her give birth. Like, this, I think this is what this is. Because she, I think, just takes everything and makes it so special. She is my standout performance of the entire year. I think she deserves every Oscar that will be thrown at her. And I hope she gets it, because she made this movie special. If she wasn't there, many people could play William Shakespeare. I'm not taking that away from Paul Mescal. There's plenty of people that could fit in, and it'd be just as fine. But finding the right Agnes is the thing that's the central pillar of the movie. And I think without her, it would just fall apart. So, best performance, Jessie Buckley.
Honestly, I can't disagree with that. Like, I think that would probably be my vote too. Jessie Buckley was incredible. Nice. I think she dominated every scene that she was in. I'm not in like a bad way, but like, she was the centerpiece. You could tell, you know.
Yeah.
Even in the scenes where both her and who's the guy who played William Shakespeare again? Sorry. Yeah. Both of them when they're in scenes together were like engrossing, because they both were incredible as their characters, but she always was the standout in every scene that they were together, in my mind. And so I totally agree. I will give one other, just because I think there were a lot of great performances in the movies that we watched. It goes without saying, honestly, based on our discussion, but Joel Edgerton in Train Dreams, I thought was another incredible performance as well. So much human emotion, even without the dialogue. Like I mentioned, and I think you mentioned as well, while we're talking through the movie the first time around. It's incredible the emotion that you can get without saying a word, and with the facial expressions that he had throughout those movies, or throughout the movie. And what's funny is we got to see him in a couple different movies, and I thought the complete opposite the first time around when we watched him in The Plague. He wasn't bad, don't get me wrong, but like, yeah, it's such a completely different role, where he was more so just like the comedy relief in The Plague. In a lot of ways. Where it was
everybody
really
had a
crazy
gym teacher
to see that transition.
like Joel Edgerton in The Plague. Everybody
the teacher that like tried to help, but like had no idea how to help.
Yeah, exactly.
But he was incredible in Train Dreams, and it was really cool to see that transition, going from a role like he had in The Plague to this central role in Train Dreams. I thought it was incredible. And some of those haunting scenes that I talked about, I feel like it was through his performance that I felt that way.
Yeah, 100%.
And so I really have nothing else to say other than, once you watch this movie, you'll understand like what I mean. But it's really hard to explain otherwise, because of like the limited dialogue that was in the movie. There were various other great performances. I had multiple other names from Sentimental Value as well that I wanted to mention, but I think those are my top two.
Yeah. Can't argue with that. Almost like a physical acting, like nature. Like, in a comedy, it's easy because people can have like a physical comedy where they're like an oaf and they like fumble around and it's funny, and like they don't have to have dialogue. They don't have to like have a punchline. I don't know what it's called, like in a dramatic sense, but the way you carry yourself, the way that you change based on what's happening around you is something that I think he's like etched to a core. Like, he has done really, really well. So I can't argue. I think he's definitely going to be nominated for a lot of these things, because I think his performance is really next level. Okay, final superlative, the obvious one, MVP. I think we might have the same short list.
Yeah.
What's your MVP of the Virginia Film Festival?
I think it probably is obvious based on like how I've talked about some of these films. But I think I'm going with Train Dreams, which was
Okay,
like
cool.
if you told me that beforehand, I would have been like, there's no way. There's no
Yeah,
way.
that's awesome.
Um, but yeah, I think again, that's what I loved about this film festival is again, watching movies that I don't think I would have watched otherwise. And I love the fact that I fell in love with this movie. Another piece that I'm just gonna mention quickly because we didn't mention it previously already is I just loved how they fit in the narration to add to the storytelling. And
Yeah.
honestly, I can't even say that I'm a huge fan of narration. I don't know like one way or another if I love it or I hate it. But all I know is that the way that they utilized it in this movie just made sense to me. And it really helped move some of these story pieces forward, even without the lack of dialogue, like we mentioned. And it felt, I don't know how to explain it, but it felt intimate in some way, the narration, even.
Hmm.
It felt like
Yeah.
that narration was connected to the story just as much as any of the characters. Um, and I thought that was really surprising too. Like I don't think I've seen a movie where I've loved narration as much as I did in this movie. It's very odd. I think, funny enough, though, I think Sentimental Value is kind of like this too. No,
Yeah. No, 100%. Yeah. It is like a very almost I forget what it's even called, but like a narrator that you can trust, a narrator that's not
yeah,
trying to like hide something, a narrator that's just giving you the information in a way that like helps it and doesn't pull you out of it. It's almost like you're sitting by the
right,
campfire and you're learning about this
exactly,
guy's life.
exactly.
Because that's what it feels like. There's so many scenes that are around a campfire of just talking
Yep.
about, oh, have you seen Prospector Joe or whatever? Who I
Yeah.
don't remember any of these people's names. But do you remember that guy? Oh yeah, I worked with him in Montana. I haven't seen him since. But it
Yeah.
had that feel of being in an old town and talking about, oh, this guy, he did this for 60 years. No one knew why, and he
Hmm.
moved on. Like there was nothing else to say. I thought now that you're saying it, now I'm like having vivid flashbacks of that narrator usage. But yeah,
Yeah.
100%. I think that's great. So my MVP, um, surprise to no one, is Hamnet. Hamnet definitely
Another great
stole
choice.
everything for me. Um, I'll be interested to see. I want to hear your top five afterwards. But for me, my next up was Sentimental Value. It was always Sentimental Value. That Sentimental Value was my most anticipated of the film festival, and it hit it out of the park. And I thought it was going to run away with my MVP until the very last day.
We
Hamnet,
even had
there's
a
not
like
much else
running
for.
joke
Oh,
because after watching Sentimental Value, we realized that we missed the like audience
the
choice award
voting,
vote.
yeah,
We were so upset for the next like
I
four
know.
screenings because they kept reminding us before the next movie, like, hey, don't forget to vote after you watch this movie. It's like
Yeah,
Sentimental Value. We hadn't
yeah,
gotten the
rip
chance to
Sentimental
vote for
Value.
it.
And then it ended up being the people's choice was Hamnet. So, and it's all
Oh, was
because
it
we all
really? I
forgot
didn't.
Sentimental Value. Yeah. Which Hamnet, also won the people's choice at TIFF this year. So,
Yep.
very fitting, very deserving. It's hard for me to talk even more about this because I think there's a lot that I want to leave unsaid because I want everybody to
Mhm.
watch it when it comes out in December.
Totally
But
agree.
I just love that they had the like ambition to just hold back the story and not like go straight to the gut punch. They laid the
Mm.
foundation, they were patient about it, and because they were patient, it paid off so much more. To me, I think maybe you had a different feeling on the ending, but for me, the ending felt like it hit like a ton of bricks and it hit me exactly where I needed to be. I was one of many people crying at the end because I just loved all the people that I was shown in this, hour and a half, 2 hours, and just feeling that with them, feeling what they're seeing on screen and
Mhm.
just feeling that. And it's so weird because, I'm not, you know, Manny and I've been together for a bit, but the family is just us. Like, we are a family of two. We have a small dog, and that's it. And feeling what these people feel with the family of three, and in-laws that live in the house, and
Yeah.
they live in this place that has the bubonic plague. Like, how can I feel the way that they feel when we live
Yeah.
completely different lives? Like, I have running water in my house, and I just felt everything that they felt. And I think that's a huge testament to Chloe Zhao and Jesse Buckley and Paul Mescal. I think they just like knocked it out of the park. This is definitely one that is going to be in the running for my favorite film of the year, and that's super exciting because even if we brought Sinners into this, I still might give it to Hamnet, which is wild to say out of something that
The
I've seen
fact
in
that
the
there's an
theater 3
argument.
times this year.
Yeah.
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 So definitely my MVP.
I love that choice as well. Honestly, you and I were both very similar in the sense that we really love a story where you truly see that character development, right? And this story is all about its characters. And that's
Yeah.
what I loved about it just as much as you did. And I think that's a great choice. I want to ask you this. Do you feel like, because you mentioned the fact that obviously like our families look very different than their families in this movie.
Yeah.
Do you feel like watching it with Maddie added to that connection in some way as well? Sorry if
I
that's a little
think
personal. I'm
probably.
just curious.
No. Like, I think it's great because, the weird thing about it is, we want to, of course, have a family at some point, and there's a lot of these movies that play with being a father and being part of a big family. Like, everything from Sentimental Value can be like a really crappy dad, and then going from like Train Dreams being a very supportive dad but maybe very absent, and then going to Hamnet of like being someone that's making the most of it. But like,
Yeah.
there's so many
Yeah.
different implications that I'm thinking through.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think it has to play some part of that, because
Yeah.
in my mind, it's like, what if this happened to us? Like, how would we react? Because how they're reacting is the one biggest gripe that I have for a lot of horror movies, is that it's like, that's out of proportion. They are overplaying this. They are
Classic horror
overacting. No
movie.
one in their
Yeah.
right mind would just like go out of their way and just like throw their life away out of anger or rage or whatever. Like, that's just wild. Maybe it does, but I don't know if I'd act that way. And Hamnet, some of their heightened emotions, and they had huge heightened emotions. A lot of that's like, I can see that even in us. Like, I can see it getting to that point, and it felt very real and earned and almost grounded in a way that, even though I don't live their life with their same experience, I can easily reflect on that.
Totally agree with that. The other thing that I loved about Hamnet is it felt real, not only from Jesse Buckley's perspective, but I thought it was really an incredible performance from Paul Mescal as well. But not only his
Yeah.
performance, but the way that his character was written, where you can see two different ways that someone can deal with, try to comprehend a tragedy. And there isn't one right way, but there's one obvious way, which we saw out of Jesse Buckley's character. I'm trying not to get into specifics here, but then there's also the less obvious way, and you still got to see how he interacted with that grief.
Yeah.
By the end of the movie, which I thought was really powerful, and you don't necessarily get to experience that through his performance on its own, but the way that it's written, you kind of read between the lines in a way,
Yeah.
you know. And I think that was really incredible, where I don't feel like I think of, and a lot of times when you lose a child in a movie, I'm just going to throw that out there. You don't always think about the father's reaction. It's usually the mother's reaction, right?
Yeah.
And I felt like, because of the way that this story is scripted, spoiler alert, maybe I should just throw a spoiler alert, because I feel like I'm very close to this line now. But it was very cool to see a story where you get to focus in on that father figure as well, and how they're dealing with it, even when they're not expressing those feelings.
Yeah.
And I thought it was really powerful the way that it was done. And again, I don't want to say too much, even though that might have been slightly spoiler territory. But when you see it, you'll know how well, or like
I
what
think
I'm
it's
trying
like
to get at.
highly insinuated that that's what happens, like even in the trailers. So I don't know.
Okay, fair enough.
Like I think a lot of people have figured that out, but
Okay,
it is the beauty of a life, the loss of that beauty, and then finding that beauty in the art that you make because you're inspired by that loss. Like it is almost like
right.
the transfer of energy of his life that I really, really love. So yeah, I can't recommend it enough. Definitely go see it. Even if you're spoiled a little bit, it's still worth it. I knew going into it that someone was going to die. I just didn't know who.
Yeah,
And even
exactly.
during it, I was like, I don't know who's going to, like, who is it? But yeah,
Exactly.
definitely check it out. Okay. Maybe we'll put some spoiler tags in the timestamps, but
Yeah,
that's our
perfect.
6 movies. Virginia Film Festival was fantastic. Highly recommend. Very cheap too. You basically just
Yeah,
paid for a
it
la
was
carte
so
for the
affordable.
tickets. So a
Yeah.
lot more cost effective than some of the bigger ones, the big name ones, even the big city ones. So definitely come to Central Virginia and check that out next year. But I think we're good. I think we've given our awards. And I think we can kind of just start planning for 2026. I definitely want to get something else on the books.
We definitely will. And you're right. I think this was a great experience. I definitely would recommend it to anyone who has just gotten into the hobby of films and watching films. You're going to love going to a film festival. I feel like it's not talked about that often.
No.
But I feel like more people should go. Like, it's crazy how easily we were able to do this. I feel like there should be more lines because it was just
Yeah.
so much fun to me. Like, I felt like I was cheating the fact that we got to experience it without having to deal with the long lines and all that comes along with that.
Yeah. There's part of me that doesn't want to spread the news. I'm like, keep it a well-versed secret. But like that, I feel like that would be bad. Like I want more people to experience it because it's just so much fun. And honestly, go with friends. I would definitely still go to movies by myself, but having Yasser and Maddie there was so much fun. Like getting to experience it with somebody else and then talk about it while we're waiting in line, talk about it at dinner, talk about it just all the time during the weekend was next level. So find a buddy, go watch some movies, and let us know how it goes. All right, that's the episode. Like, subscribe, follow, all those things. Shout out to Grandmaster Doug if he's plugged at the end of this, and we will see you next time.